Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parenthood, the podcast where we embrace the beauty, challenges, and the delightful chaos of parenthood together. I'm your host, Neha Garg, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Parenthood isn't just a podcast, it's a space where we share, listen, and find comfort in the stories of real parents, just like you. Today's episode is particularly special because we have a wonderful guest with us, Rupleena Bose. Rupleena is a talented writer and professor, and her latest book, The Summer of Then, has already captured so many hearts. But beyond her professional achievements, Rupleena is also a loving mother to her 5 years old daughter, Duniya Nuri, and a partner to filmmaker Spandan Banerjee. Their family story is filled with warmth, laughter, and lessons that come from truly living in the moment. Ruplina describes her parenting journey as interesting, revelatory, and always about learning, which is something I believe we all can relate to. I can't wait to dive into her story today. Ruplina, welcome to Parenthood. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Neha. And it's actually an absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for calling me. And of course, it's wonderful to
Yeah.
meet after all these years. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And let's start with this. As someone who's already penned some incredible stories, I wonder if you were to write an autobiography, what would the title be? And if your life were unfolding like one of your own books, what chapter do you think you are in right now? And how does this chapter differ from the ones that have come before?
Oh, very tough one. If I had to write a book on me, the title would be like a Rolling Stone, I
Uh-huh.
think, which is like a borrowed title from a Dylan song, but that's okay. And of course, my novel is essentially it's a work of fiction.
Yeah.
It's not me, it's somebody else. It's an unnamed person, and the reason it's unnamed is also because so that anybody could relate to it. So from that novel, what chapter I would be? No, that novel has very little of mothers, I think.
Yeah.
And if I look at another space where I would be, one of the, novelistically, I would say that one of the writers who I really enjoyed, who writes about motherhood, is Rachel Cusk.
Mhm.
And her second book, I mean, hers are autobiographical slash memoir slash biography, living autobiography is the word. And that would be, I think, a life's work is something where, I mean, I'm not that person, but it's very relatable. That is something which, I remember reading it at
Yeah.
like a very interesting and early point when I was, at a little, when the child was still little.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so beautifully written. And of course, like there are some very scathing parts and there are some very difficult things that she describes. But the title, A Life's Work, is the title which she uses is for the child, for this act of becoming
Yeah.
a mother, of being a
Yeah.
parent, which is like literally a life's work. If one
Yeah.
had to say what's the most difficult thing you did, I think it would be like parenting, if somebody were to ask me, actually.
Yeah.
Earlier, I would think maths if I was a kid, but I think it's tougher than math.
Yeah, yeah. Now that we are talking about parenting, I think let's start with that only because earlier I wanted to know about Spandan, but I think he can come later. So, how about Duniya Nuri? Okay, first off, what's with the name? It's such a beautiful, unique, one of its kind name. I haven't heard anything like that before. What do you call her? Is it Duniya? Is it Nuri? Is it Duniya Nuri? And how did the name come about? What's the story? Tell us.
So then so Dunya is a name which I always liked and wanted,
Mhm.
and it's actually a Lebanese, Lebanese friends, various Lebanese friends. They had, I think, somebody I knew had that name years ago, and
Mhm.
it's a very common name in. And there's also a film, I think, which was Dunya, Duniya.
Yeah,
And Nuri is actually comes from light, so it's light of the world. And also Dunya has a very Sufi connotation in a way. Like
yeah,
it's not just your world, it also means the spirit, the world in itself, the
yeah,
beauty and the glory of the world. So that's why I really like the name. So, and also the other thing is also the songs. So
yeah.
I love the fact that all kinds of songs had dunya in it. So, like dunya, dunya paheli. There's
Yeah.
one song. So a lot of, in fact, older songs had Dunya. So that's one of the names that stuck to me. Nuri is also light of the world. So
Yeah.
that is something that, it's something that I wanted. So Duniya Nuri, and then there are two surnames, which is my surname Bose and my husband's, which is Banerjee. We call her Dunya only. And unlike most Bengalis, she doesn't have a nickname, which I sort of, all Bengalis have like one proper name, one nickname.
Yeah.
She doesn't have one. So we call her Duni or Dunya or whatever, like some or like loving general names.
Yeah.
But she doesn't
Yeah.
have an established nickname. This is the
Yeah.
name.
Are these like two first names? Dunya Nuri are her two first names?
Yeah, Dunya is the first. Yeah, Dunya Nuri is the middle name, and there's Bose Banerjee surnames. So also the option that if she wants to drop her surnames when she grows up, she can
Yeah.
just. So that is
Ah,
also there that way.
oh, how thoughtful is that? Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like the one would want to do
Yeah.
something with one's
Maybe.
name, I
Yeah.
guess. So
And what is she like? Now she's 5 years old, so she must have a strong and well-built personality of her own. So what are some of the things that, or her quirks that make you happy, make you smile, and what is she like generally?
she's very opinionated. I don't know. I'm sure it's good in the long run. And but as a as a kid, then you really have to explain that. Listen, this is good for you, and this is not good for you. And you're just 5. So when you grow up, then you do your choice. Then you take your own decisions. Now you can't. So that there's a lot of explanation required. She is a bit rebellious, but as all little girls are, she's like into princesses and very very
Oh,
girly things. Yeah, like fairies and princesses and pink. So all of the gender conditioning which one did not want to like get into, it doesn't matter because finally the child will do what they want to do. It doesn't matter what you have, what your plans are.
right.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that so he likes princesses, fairies, and the other thing is that it's you cannot make her wear what you want to wear. She will always choose her dress, and we are like, you're 5. Why can't you just wear what we tell you? Like she's very particular about what she's choosing and what her dress is. So that's one of the big perpetual issues. Dress and clothes and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. And now coming to Spandan, can you tell us a little bit about him? Always so curious about love stories and all of that. So, how did you two meet? How has your relationship grown and probably changed since becoming parents together?
Well, we met many years back at a party,
Mm.
and of course work together. Like I used to be a filmmaker, so I used to write films for him,
Oh,
and I think how the change has been is so tough to clarify. Of course, it's a huge change. Like anybody would know. I mean, you can't like party all the time now with
yeah,
with a child. But I think it's very interesting because you also have a friend. You also have like a like a third person. I think is interesting in a relationship because
yeah,
the dynamics change. I
yeah,
think, and it's obviously a change for change is the key to life. I would say
yeah,
if you don't change, then it just gets a bit boring. I think after a point of time. So
yeah.
I'm always or for change. I like the fact that things must change, then they must. It's okay. Good change, of course. A good changes we all like, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And how's the vibe in your house? Oh, you have two houses, right? So tell us about that also. How's the vibe in Delhi? How's the vibe in Goa? And what makes your family life uniquely yours?
I think one key point is that the way we also interact, we also like talk to Dunya as like really grown ups too. Our
Yeah.
choices are very specific. Like, I teach, I write. So for her, this most exciting thing right now is the fact that Mama's book is out. She knows
Uh-huh.
the title. It's Summer of Then. She knows. And she's always talking about how she will make a book when she's going to grow up. She will draw. She's majorly into drawing right now.
Yeah.
She loves art. And as I assume a fair number of 5-year-olds would, but she's quite good at it. I would say that she sits down and she's, like she sits down and does her drawings and all.
Yeah.
And so right now, the most exciting, I think the unique thing is the things she's exposed to, I guess, because she thinks that every parent, mother is a professor.
Yeah.
she thinks every mother is a writer, which is nice. I mean,
Hmm.
nice to think that.
Yeah.
So, and she's also exposed to a lot of interesting kind of people because of our profiles, I feel.
Right.
Like our friends who are artists. So as of now, she says that she wants to grow up and be an artist. But that
Yeah.
changes the next day and she wants something else. So you know how
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a constantly evolving thing. Kids, even we keep changing what we
Yeah.
want to be in when
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that is one thing, and in, of course, Delhi is much more school and work oriented. Like days pass in this whole, going to school, coming back from school, doing this, doing that. Goa is very flexible, easy,
Yeah.
also space in terms of, it's like much more with nature, which is wonderful for kids. And
Yeah.
she spent most of her years, like she was born in Goa.
Yeah.
Dunya was born in Goa and she stayed there pretty much till she was 4.5. And
Uh-huh.
now she's understood the difference that Delhi is school and work and Goa is holidays.
Uh-huh.
So that is something that she's understood.
Yeah.
And of course, the fact that animals, flowers, plants, nature walks, she never saw a shop till she was 4.5.
Yeah.
The village, chota sa dukan, the tiny village grocery shop is something she saw, that she saw Delfinos, which was one supermarket far away, 30
Yeah.
minutes away. And that's it. She'd never seen a mall, she'd never seen too many cars or buses. So I think that was a good thing. So just the fact that going to a shop wanting to that doesn't come naturally to her,
Yeah.
because she was not exposed to it. There were no shops there,
Yeah.
where we lived in a village. We still,
Yeah.
like, the house is in a small village. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, you can't even imagine, I think,
Yeah.
living, somewhere here. But at
Yeah.
the same time, clean air, fresh air, but very little commodities were
Yeah.
available to her. Very little. Whatever would come, he would choose, and it would come via Amazon or something. So toys, like I think 4.5 years. Even when I see the toys, when I come to the city, when I have come to the city, when
Yeah.
I see those things, I'm like, oh my God, I never knew these existed. Because a
Yeah.
particular kind of toys only like would buy, which like magnetiles,
Yeah.
non-battery, those kind of things. There was no
Yeah.
you choose Amazon and you buy, or you somebody passes it to you, like hands it to you. So
Yeah.
it was very different. Of course, now in a big city really catches on to you, I think,
Yeah.
quite fast, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
But how?
till she was quite simple life, I
Yeah.
think. Very simple life.
Yeah. But how did you like was it a calculated decision, or it just happened so that you just decided that okay, you are in Goa, so you'll continue raising her there, or and then when it comes the time for school, then you'll bring her here, or how was it? How did the transition happen and how did she take it? Now I think she's a little more settled, but I think for a child also, to have that kind of transition and their world completely moves 360 degrees. So how did that happen?
So see, it was not as such a very calculated plan. The fact is that we were in Goa. I was on leave. My partner had worked there, so we were
Yeah.
in Goa before she was born. We have been there for a while, and then she was born, and then my leave continued, and then the pandemic happened, so we stayed on, and then my leave got over, and I had to come back to teach, to
Yeah.
join teaching. So and then because I had to come back to teach, she also, which meant that we would be spending more time in Delhi, which
Yeah.
meant that she joined school here. She did
Yeah.
do school, 1 year of school in Goa, like
Hmm.
definitely she did do
Yeah.
that. But her school here, like, so that's why, but the memories are also short, like in a
Yeah.
way, because she was in a village where there was very little things, like not too many vehicles, nothing, just the house. And of course, there's like, space to play and nature. But the city is also exciting,
Yeah.
for a child, something so new, like so many shops, so many cars, so many things. A lift, she'd never seen an elevator, she'd never seen a
Yeah.
mall. So that way, people, I mean, kids also take to it, right? Because
Yeah.
village, finally, it's like cows and dogs and nature, and we choose that life. But for
Yeah.
her, she likes the city life as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And, and
she's okay, yeah, with it.
and
Yeah.
Spandan is also in Delhi now.
Well, he spends more time in Goa, I would say. He does a lot of to and fro.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, so half month kind of a thing.
Okay.
Half
Okay.
a month there, half a month there,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And how has, I am really interested to know, Rupleena, like reflecting on your journey into parenthood, I would say, for the last 5 years. Were there any pivotal moments that, you know, those that shaped how you see yourself as a mother? Like something that tells you that, yeah, this is the kind of mother I am.
Uh, I don't know. It's a tough one to answer. How do I? No, I think you're constantly evolving and changing. It's tough to answer this one. Like this is the mother I'm. I don't know. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
there's a constant thing of anxiety and worry, which sort of defines parenthood. But
Yeah.
what I realized is like also because I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
Like so there is one thing about books, and I would say that I approach motherhood and parenthood also in a very literary way, just like the rest of my life. So
Mm.
for me, like reading books or what I learn from children's books, like what I
Yeah.
learn and what she learns, is something which is very vital to me. That in a way is something that give open, but it opened my life in a way,
Yeah.
that this whole category of children's books and what we understand from children's literature, also literature, baby books, literature.
Yeah.
So that is something which the perspective of a child, for example, this Mog books are there, which is from the perspective of a cat,
Yeah.
and cat, the family which has a cat. And I was like, wow, so beautifully done, the simplicity of word language and how the child sort of comes in. Even the Peppa characters, every character is there, every kind of like single parent,
Yeah.
parent, both parents, two moms, like same-sex
Yeah.
couples, parents, all of this is there in Peppa. And I was like, wow, see, this is how you'd like your child to be, right? To
Yeah.
be embracing of all kinds of different, all kinds of people, to embrace difference. I
Yeah.
don't know how successful we are, because finally, it's a person's own choice.
Yeah.
I like the fact that that so a lot of my mother understanding of being a mother or wanting to who I want to be also comes from the books. Like
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I would aspire to be Calvin's mom, who's so cool and chill. I don't know whether I will be or not, but I'm giving it like one year. So
Yeah.
which is the age of Calvin. So yeah.
Yeah. And is she into books?
She is into books, but you have to read it to her now. you
Yeah.
know but
Yeah.
she's definitely, yeah. She's got tons of books now. Her bookshelf is like overflowing.
Mm.
And yeah, from the very beginning, it has been like three books at night. She doesn't even know any other way. She just knows bedtime means three books.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been a vital part of her life. But she doesn't read yet. She
Mm.
will, I hope, eventually at some point.
Yeah.
But right now, every time, even when I try, like, Acha, you want to read? Like, no, 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 you read to me. So I think that laziness also, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah. And I think she'll take to it, like,
I
going
hope.
to school and then seeing the kids around and having the books, like, as part of your curriculum. I think that's a transition that will happen in its due course. But I also
But
want,
one thing, sorry.
yeah, yeah, please, please, please go ahead.
No, but one thing I notice is that in general, I notice like the way everybody looks at books, and I myself was a voracious reader. Of course, like
Yeah,
which is why I do what I do. I teach and I write.
yeah,
But from a very young age, I was reading. Which is like really a young age. I think age 7, which I was in class 2 back then. So
yeah,
one thing that, but nobody like told me to read. Nobody
yeah,
told me to study, and it was just completely my own choice, even as a kid back then. Matlab, of course, people would tell other kids, but to me, it was not told. And I just feel one thing is that this whole thing of like book padhai or
yeah,
study
yeah,
is something which is detrimental. Like sometimes, somebody would say, "Oh, Dunya, you should study." Like book reading is not studying. It
yeah,
is pleasure element to it. Don't take it away from her. She should not feel it's like like
yeah.
all the time
Something to
knowledge,
be done.
learning. Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Just like have fun. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so right, because not just reading, so many things these days have become one of those things that it has to be done, and this is the way. Like I see friends who have overscheduled calendars for their kids, because rushing from one activity to the other, because the kids have to be some superheroes and they have to, turn out to be these people who just know, who are on the top of everything. So yeah, I'm glad that you say that.
Yeah, because studies overemphasis, I like, and that's why everybody, for example, I'll give you an example, which is like when Dunya started speaking, she was only speaking in Bengali. Okay,
Yeah,
because we had this rule that, I mean, at least I made this thing that only Bengali. First, let her learn Bengali. And
yeah,
everybody was like, oh, you're an English professor. How can your child not know English? I like, she'll know, she'll learn. It's okay. First, she should learn Bengali because multiple languages mix up the brain.
yeah,
Now, in fact, a lot of friends where three languages or four languages were being spoken at home, their kids started speaking much lesser or
yeah,
late as well because too many languages. So I was like, you should stick to one language. English they will learn. It's okay. I
yeah,
mean, I will speak English. I anyway mostly speak English.
yeah,
Um, like amongst ourselves. But at that time, that 1.5 years, we were consciously speaking Bengali, and
yeah,
that's how she picked up Bengali. And everybody's like, English, like, it's okay.
yeah,
Relax. And now she speaks Hindi as well. In Goa, like for example, she didn't know Hindi at all. So
yeah,
after she's been going to school for the last 1 year, she's spoken from zero Hindi. She's like full on Hindi.
yeah,
So kids also learn languages fast. It's better to go one by one. It's something that I keep telling everyone. A lot of friends also who are like, too many languages, not speaking. I think start with one. Don't
yeah,
stress with.
yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah.
that is one of the things.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in something you said, Rupleena, about, keeping, evolving and, changing and all of that. So I am, like, I know you've been evolving and you see that as the life's process. But if we were to say that, Rupleena before Duniya and Rupleena after Duniya, so is there something that changed fundamentally in you as a person? Did she bring about any fundamental change in your personality?
I'm a totally different person, I feel. And in a way, I think I wrote Summer of Then, which my novel.
Yeah.
Started writing Summer of Then in April 2020, May 2020, because I
Uh-huh.
thought the previous manuscript I'd finished in 2019 very neatly. I'd finished one draft and I thought, okay, I've finished one draft, now I'll have a kid and I'll go back to it. April 2020, pandemic happened, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I'm a different person. I cannot go back to that manuscript and rework it now. I have to write something afresh, which is me now.
Yeah.
And the author has to be like the me of the present, and the
Yeah.
me of the present has to write a new thing. I can't go back to something which I'd written because my voice is different now.
Yeah.
And in a way that it's more mature. My notion of time has changed, which is again very important. My notion of what what 10 years mean in a person's life, because I was thinking when okay, how do I put this novel together, and that the first thing I thought that if I am a different person now post my child, then I should also like start afresh with my writing. So
Yeah.
yes, significant change, I would say. But personality wise, yeah, I mean, of course you are the same person, but you are not the same person. I think it's
Yeah.
categorized. you
Yeah.
know like I'm the same person in terms of I'm free in my head or in my imagination,
Yeah.
and yet a completely different person who's completely sort of bound by uh, your
This
the
little
child.
human being.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that. And also time is a huge thing, I would say. I mean, I took 3 years to write that first manuscript, and I was like, in 2020 I thought, what am I doing? Like 3 years? Who has that kind of time? Because there is like limited time. I think it makes you more productive,
Yeah.
actually. So I finish things because I know that there's just so much to do at all points of time. I
Yeah.
think so. I
Yeah.
think that is yeah. So that is
Somebody said to me, I'm not, I'm not sure who said this to me, but in one of these conversations somebody said to me that, you hand it to the mothers, like they are so efficient, they don't have time to, waste on highs and hellos. When they get into the meeting, they just get the
yeah,
work done and then they get out, because there is just so much to do. So there is
yeah.
a renewed sense of efficiency that comes in your life once you become a mother. I mean, I'm sure it's true for some fathers also, but mostly for the mothers. And that's what I hear you say, that it's just,
Yeah,
you just have no time to waste.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And the other thing I would say is
hmm,
that I looked at Kill Bill, the film, which was a
yeah,
favorite film of mine, which is that Quentin Tarantino's film, which has
yeah,
Uma Thurman, from a
yeah,
completely different perspective. Because you look at it like she gets up from coma and she does all that, and she finally gets to her daughter, and at that time it feels like fantasy. And when you see the film after you become a mom, you know, of course she's a superhero. That's exactly the point. Kill Bill is about motherhood.
yeah,
Nobody mentions that to you, but
yeah,
precisely that's what it is. It's the like the revenge or whatever, like
yeah,
the urgency and the fearlessness of motherhood, I
yeah.
think. So, yeah, that was yeah, so I sort of started looking at everything in a different perspective, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. I get that. And also now that you do so much, like I mean, you wear so many hats, so to say. You are a writer, then you teach, you're a professor, then you're a mother, then you're a wife, a partner, and so many roles that we play in our life. So how do you find balance between these roles, and if you do, how do you find that, and like how do you juggle all these things?
No, there's no balance here. It's like literally taking it as it comes, every day as it comes. There's no balance. And sometimes I think you have to realize that you're not going to be good at it all. So
Yeah,
you choose what you're going to be good at. So I
yeah,
have sort of also, let go as to the number of things I can be good at. So now I'm like, it's okay. If you're not good at like five things, if you're doing, you let go of some also. Like, for
yeah,
example, even like I used to write articles for a lot of like feature articles for
yeah,
newspapers. I was doing some screenplay work. Now, those things have cut down
yeah,
tremendously because I'm like,
yeah,
either I write my novels or you can't do so many, that you
yeah,
can't split your brain into so many pieces. You just
yeah,
can't.
yeah.
So, and
Does it?
sometimes you
Yeah, sorry.
no, sometimes you also have to be okay that, it's not maybe, today was not a good day and tomorrow
Yeah,
might be a better day. I
yeah,
think that we should be kind to ourselves also. So that is a very important part. I think we should be kind to ourselves.
yeah.
And overachieving is always not such a huge thing. Just taking rest is also fine, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's so important. And also that you said that you tend to drop some things, and then you tend to focus on things that you can focus on. So does that also bring with it a sense of missing out, like for example, you not writing those feature articles or not doing your screenplay work? Does that bring that kind of maybe a little bit of resentment, or that kind of that I'm missing out on that?
No, I don't think so. Not to me at the moment, at least, because there's
Yeah,
already enough in your plate. So you realize that you were anyway probably taking too much on your plate. I
yeah,
think you
yeah,
thought that you would do all of that. It's a lot. So
yeah,
what you're doing, like your home and your whatever your work and whatever gives you pleasure and your
yeah,
identity. So
yeah,
like for me, writing gives me great pleasure. So I think we should also and if you're like stressing, I mean, I found myself like every time somebody would say, why don't you write an article, and I would just spend too much time thinking about it and stressing and not doing, which is not my nature. I do it on quickly. Then I
yeah,
thought maybe this is not the time for it. There might
yeah,
be a time that will come. Now is not the time. So
yeah,
that I think we should also gracefully allow ourselves that that is what I guess change and evolution is. We should
yeah.
gracefully allow ourselves that maybe this is not the time. It's all right.
Yeah, yeah. And like this is about work and what you want to do, but also about finding time for yourself. I think that can be very tricky. Like this is this whole I think blown out of proportion concept of self-care now, and it's been glorified like nobody's business. But what does self-care look like for you? Do you get time for yourself, and how do you, I mean, if you do, then how do you carve these moments for yourself out?
Self care, which is also, if there's a physical part to it, then
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether I'm doing a good job with self care or not. One should, of course. I'm
yeah,
not sure whether I am doing a good job,
yeah,
of course. Also because your notion of self changes. Like
yeah,
there's so many selves now. Like
yeah,
it's a split self. So
yeah,
for me, actually, the only self care that I practice is like I read what I feel like and whenever I feel like. So I think that's the self care I practice. The other ones, or if you want to buy something interesting for yourself, maybe that's self care. It's consumerism, yes,
yeah,
but that could also be self care.
yeah,
And yeah, eating well is important, definitely. That is something that you have to, as parents, do
Yeah,
for your kids, I would say.
yeah,
I do it
yeah,
in parts and bits and fits and bursts, but
yeah.
not always. I should. I know that.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have a typical day? What does your day generally look like?
My typical working day, which is where everybody's work, where like there's a school
Yeah,
day and a teaching day, is usually either me or my husband. We drop Dunya to school, and then which is at early in the morning. Why God knows why schools are so early in the morning. Never mind. So which is really early. So then I drop her, and either if I have work classes at that time, then I go straight off to college to
yeah,
teach, and either of us pick her up usually at which is around 1:10,
yeah,
and depending on whose schedule is what. And
yeah,
then when you come back, then it's like then it becomes also child oriented, like
yeah,
food, and there's so many chores that you have to do when you have a kid. Like it's not optional; you just have to do, and you get used to it also. So in
yeah,
a way, it does give you a bit of a structure. So this is meal time, this is bedtime, this is this time. So there is a natural structure which happens,
yeah,
which after I think the child is 3, till the child is 3 years old, I would say it's much tougher.
yeah,
I personally think the early years are really much tougher. After you're 3 and after the child is 3, it's slightly more organized also, in terms of they also can speak and communicate, and they're also able to do things what they like the play that they like, or the things
yeah,
that they, and you are able to structure it better, I feel.
yeah,
So my typical day is that picking up from school, or either of us do that, and then the usual like food and bath and all of that. Then evening a bit of a play, and then of course like geared towards bedtime, because the next day is school. And
yeah.
somewhere in between, find time to read or write, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ruplina, I'm very interested to know because it's you and Spandan and then you're raising Dunya. So and as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So who's in your village other than the two of you? And like how have they supported you in your journey in the last 5 years?
So we have a very like small village, to be very honest.
Yeah.
And my mom, who's basically, my parents live in Calcutta, so my mom keeps coming down to help me.
Yeah.
And from the very beginning, it's been like that. And that's what it is, because other family, they cannot like, we don't have siblings, so it's very
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have your the help that you get, which is
Yeah.
your living help, or
Yeah.
the person who comes and cooks, and we are extremely reliant on them. Of course,
Yeah.
without that, it's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm very curious to see you from Dunya's perspective. So, if she were to describe you, as a person, what do you think she would say?
He would say, "Mama is always with a book." It's a big fat book. That is the joke all the time. Okay, Mama is always with a big fat book. And recently, I organized my table, which had too many of her things. I said,
Yeah.
"Listen, I have to, like I really have to work on this table, so you keep your toys elsewhere." She said, "Okay, fine. After you finish this book, then I'll get the toys back." I said, "Yeah, okay, fine." So yeah, it had to be like, okay. So that's how she would describe me. Other than saying that, she whenever I tell her that, okay, you're taking too much time, come fast, she'll say you're mean. So other than that, I think it's like, yeah.
Okay. And do you recall any particular memory or incident, in your parenthood journey where you felt really overwhelmed and, maybe it was a very challenging moment? And what happened? How did you navigate through it?
If it is a constant anxiety, you have to just live with it. And also when kids fall sick, it is one of the
Yeah.
worst experiences. I mean, so that obviously has come, and there's nothing to negotiate. You just feel miserable. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And you just feel miserable, and you feel anxious, and everything else in your life pretty much sort of is stalled till the
Yeah.
kid gets better or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's a constant anxiety, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I I hear you. And Ruplina, as a writer, you must find inspiration in the smallest of moments, especially when they come now from Dunya. And I think children have this wonderful way of seeing the world that can surprise us in the best possible ways. So can you share some of those things maybe that where she has inspired you to, maybe take a note of something or has caught you off guard or make you pause and see things differently? Has it ever happened?
Yes, so many times, because children also bring in a fair bit of like sort of magic, because they like magic and the whole thing of like, and they're also very resilient. Like they know how
Yeah,
to adapt. So
yeah,
adaptability is something that you learn from a child. Like, ye nahi hai, they'll take something else. That's if that's not there, okay, fine, we'll do with that. I think that adaptability is a huge learning, from a child. That children are naturally adaptive. Even when she was going to one school in Goa, then she shifted, came to this school in Delhi, and she adapted at one level. Like because
yeah,
also when you're young, it's easier to adapt. So I think
yeah,
that is one of the big lessons you take from adaptability. The other is the general, nature of like just finding the magical, like unicorns are real
yeah,
and fairies and all of those, like, princess dresses. Like you would find her wearing a princess dress every now and then at home.
yeah,
And I'm like, Dunia, we're not going out. Like, so what? I'm going to wear this. I'm like, yeah, of course. True. So how we are not going out? Why not wear a princess dress, right? Because
yeah,
when you grow up, you'll probably never wear a princess dress. I mean, I did, but I don't. So
yeah,
yeah, why not? Let's not this thing.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
those things are.
Yeah, and like I'm also very curious to know about, both of you as parents, like Spandan and you as parents. So do you have kind of a like a parenting philosophy, or do you discuss how do you want to raise her, or is it mostly organic? Like you just decide that okay, on a case to case basis, on a day to day basis, that okay, this is what we are going to do, and this is how we are going to deal with things.
It is organic, I would say, but also I would say that as my partner Spandan, I mean, I think one thing that he keeps telling me, don't sort of push your stress on the child or whatever the situation is, like this is not
Yeah,
happening or something. Then don't load her with the burden, just let her be. I think that's something which is a constant learning, which sort of he brings in the calm that he brings in, I would say, is very important, because I think as mothers, you are over anxious. At least I
yeah,
am. I think all mothers are.
yeah,
You're too bogged down with the anxiety and the. So a lot of times the easy, breezy things of life we miss out, which I
yeah,
think Spandan gets in. Like be it the music that he plays or the art that he also draws. He's also an
yeah,
artist. So those
yeah,
things are the nicer things. Unlike, I would say, Kacha, do this, do that, or which sometimes gets too much, I think.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so that often can't be discussed, but you notice it. I do realize it, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. And like looking back, has there been a small moment or something that has surprisingly has had a big impact on your life as a parent?
That is when it sort of completely shifts, the perspective shifts of what
Yeah,
life is or what life is going to be. I think that is the complete life changing moment. The other is when kids start to speak and when they express
yeah,
themselves. That is something which is very interesting, because expression, you realize that they are their own people, they are their own entities. They
yeah,
have their voice, they have their own opinion. So that always surprises you. Like
yeah,
day to day basis, when she would say something, it would just be it's like a surprise.
yeah,
uh, like just so many things. Now I can't even remember what they are like, but so many things. The way she observes things, the fact that kids observe, like one thing is missing. Say, for example, one table has been from here to there. Instantly, she would say, "Kyo, Acha, you shifted it there. Why?" I'm like, "Okay, you noticed also. Even I didn't notice."
yeah,
So, something like that, or the pattern on a bed sheet, or one earring which you have. Oh, this is very pretty, mama. So you don't even notice that. What you realize, that the child, because they are looking at the world with a fresh perspective, that
yeah,
they notice things much more than you do, because in a way you are jaded. Like you, as in, like, a lot of things, the unfamiliar is very interesting for them. For
yeah,
us, we sort of familiar with that. So
Yeah.
also the first time ice cream, something which is fascinating for a child.
Yeah.
The taste of ice cream. We all love the taste of ice cream, but the joy in a kid like going for an ice cream is something else, which is a beautiful moment, I think. Which is
Yeah.
like the other day we went for ice cream and she like dressed up and all of that, and we are going to an ice cream parlor for a with Poppy is what she calls her father. Like we're going for a ice cream date. I'm like, oh, how
Oh.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. It almost sounds magical because you're like, ah, ice cream hi to hai. And but then
Yeah.
you're seeing someone so excited and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, maybe there's something to it.
And I'm thinking that, oh, we'll go to the ice cream parlor, Baskin Robbins, उसमें तो जगह ही नहीं है बैठने का. And I'm thinking all these things.
Yeah.
She but damn, doesn't care. She's like, but Mama, it's lovely. It's pink and it's blue. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's pink. Like it's got so many colors. I'm like, yeah, that's true. It has so many colors. It's so nice. I'm like, yes, of course. So I think that is always like every day there's something like that comes in.
Yeah.
Like today was India Flag Day in school. So she wore
Oh,
the colors of India flag, white, orange, and green.
yeah.
And she was very excited, and it was like so cute looking at all those kids with the three
Yeah.
colors, like
Yeah.
white, green, and orange. I thought, oh my God, so pretty. You don't see the beauty of the flag colors also. No? We're so
Yeah.
sometimes you're sort of it's an obvious thing, but you don't see it.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I think we are just, I think we as people have grown to be so cynical of so many things that, we have seen it and we are like, okay, nothing ever
Yeah.
changes and the system is like this. And, we just close our eyes to the everyday beauty, so to say. And then
Absolutely.
it
Absolutely.
just, I think it just brings that kind of innocence back into the system when you see it from a kid's eyes.
No, no, absolutely. You said it. Everyday beauty and that innocence of that, no, it's something else. That is what is magical. I think that is what is the key thing about
Yeah,
child grow up in front of you,
yeah,
which is yeah, just magical. I think nothing, no other word for it in a way.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't find a word for it.
Great. Okay, Rupleena, we are gearing towards the end of this episode, but I have two more questions for you before I let you go. So, one of the questions is if you could sit down with your pre-parent self, what would you tell yourself? Be it an advice, be it a piece of wisdom, what would you say to the Rupleena who didn't have Duniya back then?
Manage your time better, I would say. you know Manage your time, because you have a lot of time because you don't have kids. And if you have a lot of time, you better do something with it. Or if you don't, then like definitely like take it easy or whatever, have fun, travel, and do all of those things. I would say to my pre-parent self. And be kind to other new parents. That is
Yeah,
another thing I would. So
yeah.
even like every time somebody has canceled saying that my kid is something, like kid is, I'm busy with the kid and all that, and I was like, oh, come on. Or whatever I've said, I want to go back and apologize to all of them. Like, listen, I didn't get it, man. I now get it. Anybody who said that, we have to do school, tomorrow is school day, we can't do it to go out today. And I want to say, I get you now. I
Yeah.
understand what you meant at that point of time, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how can non-parents actually understand that? Because I think that's one thing that I have constantly heard from all the parents, and I have experienced it myself, that you just don't get it till you become a parent. But I really wish there was a way that I could understand without becoming a parent that what it is like.
Yeah, I don't think one can. Maybe one can. I don't know. It feels like a generalization, right? To say, I mean, it
Yeah.
just feels like the wrong thing to say, right? That, oh, you
Yeah.
don't get it if you're not a parent. Every
Yeah.
time people have said it to me before, and I've said, oh, come on, that is
Yeah.
no answer. But the fact is that part of you, that self, it changes
Yeah.
so dramatically. You really can't explain. You really, maybe with people who have nephews and nieces can, or people who are very like wise and observant, they can see it. But
Yeah.
um, mostly that it's so internal. It's almost like it's mental and physical at the same time, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying just for mothers, I'm saying for fathers as well,
Yeah.
both parents, I mean,
Yeah.
that it's so deeply changing that, yeah, maybe there is no other way to understand without being a parent. Or, I wish it was. I agree with you. I wish that you could one could understand, but
Yeah.
it's just really different. It's almost like the world is divided into kinds of people, right? One for
Yeah.
parents and one for not, in a
Yeah.
way. And there's this big rift which is dividing these two categories of people, I
Yeah.
think. Not
Yeah.
for good or bad, not judging it, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
just the practicality of that emotion, or the everydayness of the of
Yeah.
being, is something which is so different, so
Yeah.
intense, actually.
Yeah, sometimes I want to go back and, slap my earlier self who used to, just just dismiss parents by saying that, oh, I know what you mean. I also have four kids because I have four dogs and they are my kids. Like, really, really, they are my kids. But having a human child is just something else. Like, I'm saying this on record. I am sorry to all those parents who I said that, oh, I am also a mother. I
Yeah.
know what it is like. So I didn't know what it is like. So,
No, absolutely. Because we also have cats, and one of the reasons our life is divided between Delhi and Goa is that the cats are in Goa. So my husband goes there, and when he's not there, somebody else, we make sure that a friend or somebody is staying in the house for the cats. So
yeah,
I've been a cat parent, but it is, and all my love. I mean, of course, like you, like they are
yeah,
my, everything. But it's still different because I think
yeah,
there's also the notion of dependence that a
yeah,
fragile being you bring into the world,
yeah,
or adopt or whatever, like,
yeah,
who you are responsible fully for,
yeah,
um, is something else. Also, because children take more time to sort of be independent than
yeah,
a furry child. They're also dependent, of course, but
yeah,
still different. It's just it's not the same. So,
yeah, yeah. You don't
I mean,
have
but
to
the
be
love might be,
24/7, you know, like sometimes you just feel with a human child, if you're not there, like something will drop, you know?
yeah, yeah. You're always like scared that a bomb will drop in your
Yeah,
this thing. Anything it can bomb.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's it's this constant feeling of that, okay, like, okay, all right. you know
Yeah.
there is that pause of your sentence all the time, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And now for our listeners, Ruplina, do you have a piece of advice or insight that you'd want them to take away from your story? Something maybe that is close to your heart and that you wish someone had shared with you?
uh, I think one thing would be that we don't talk about uh, how it changes, like what you're doing. It's wonderful. Like, what you're doing with the podcast. Honestly, I had no idea what was awaiting me,
Yeah,
before I had my child. So I think we must also talk about things like postpartum, and like taking help postpartum is something which, because if we're talking about new mothers, of course
yeah,
my child is still older, like I've crossed that early stage. But the early stage, I would say, is that definitely, like taking help, as much help as you can.
yeah,
Sleep, the fact that somebody should have told me that you will sleep so less is
yeah,
something that I keep wishing that I had known. What would I have done with the knowledge? I don't know. So
yeah,
so yeah, what will I do with that knowledge? Yeah, it's just knowledge. Okay, you don't sleep. I don't know what would I do, but it's something that one should also know.
yeah,
And also the fact that the first year is a very difficult year,
yeah,
because you are changing, the child is really young, completely
yeah,
dependent on you, and so many, particularly simple things. It's also about the basic survival things which are
yeah,
essential. Everything else will come later, after the child turns one, and the first few months are about like feeding and surviving, and
yeah,
like just like hanging on to it, like hold
yeah,
on to it. Don't get stressed, don't get depressed, or if you are, take help. I think that is something I would say. I would also say that approaching it with a literary perspective really helped. So reading books,
yeah,
if you are that person.
yeah,
Also, with I remember watching that. what was that series? Now I'm completely forgetting that Mother Wala series, Australian, this thing. See, now I've forgotten also. So you forget. I think there's also the thing of you forget your early years very fast. I think, like by third year, you would have forgotten what you did in the
Yeah.
first year,
But
I
talking
think.
about years, I think it doesn't even take months and weeks to forget. Like,
Correct, correct.
yeah,
Years to matlab, is a longer ball
yeah,
game. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. It doesn't take even take some time to
yeah,
forget. That is one thing. And of course, self care, I think the most important in the early months,
yeah,
I would say. Early months, first month, particularly for both parents, essentially, obviously more for the mother,
yeah,
to take a break, take a pause, to even like 10 minutes and, like go out somewhere, just take a walk. And that is something which is very important, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think I think you've summed it up so nicely, and I really really think that yeah, I really resonate with what you've said. That I don't know what I would do with that knowledge, because you have to go through whatever you have to go through, but it's
Yeah,
just I think it's just super helpful to know, you know,
yeah, yeah.
what's coming. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Ruplina. Thank you so much. It has been an
Not
absolute
at all.
joy talking with you today. And I think your story is filled with so much love, wisdom, and the kind of honesty, that makes all of us feel that we are maybe a little less alone in this journey. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And that is one thing that one should remember, that we are not alone in this journey. You also, it helps to like bond or have mums groups and those kind of things. Whatever WhatsApp group, I remember we had this Goa mums group at that time. And
yeah,
it was really helpful actually. For everything you could just ask, and it doesn't make you feel alone.
yeah,
Or I remember this website I used to look at called Motherly, which, you can also take a look. Very nice stories. It really helped, I think,
yeah,
at that time, just to feel that there is this whole, like invisible global community out
yeah.
there who are like in the same experience or in the same sort of journey like you
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So true. And thank you for opening up and sharing your stories with us, Ruplina. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me. Yeah, it was lovely.
Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on another episode of Parenthood. I hope Ruplina's story has touched you as much as it has touched me. Remember, no matter where you are in your parenting journey, you're doing an amazing job and you are not alone. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please share this episode with your friends, subscribe to Parenthood, and leave us a review. It really helps us continue to bring you these heartfelt stories. And if you are looking for a supportive community of parents, follow us on social media for more inspiration, tips, and a few laughs along the way. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep cherishing those little moments that make parenthood the wild, wonderful ride that it is. This is Neha Garg signing off. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.